we're gonna start with a fuzzy bass, aka Neuro bass. Neuro bass always uses the saw waveform. Always remember to play with the octave to see what things actually sound like when you bring them down when you're making bass sounds, cause stuff will sound like shit on the higher octaves. Ish. Okay. So for Neuro bass, you need another saw waveform, and the way you do that in SunVox is you got this frequency 2, which normally is 1000, which means it's in perfect unison, and this is how you detune the second oscillator, which is also a saw, and you get the fuzzy bass. And the more you detune this, the faster the wobble will be. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you bring this up, the bass note will actually be out of tune with the rest of the song a tiny bit. So if that's a problem, depends on how much you bring this up. You can bring the fine tune down on the actual synth. So this is 28 cents up. You can bring this down halfway, and that way you'll be roughly in the correct, because now oscillator 2 will be a bit above 0, which is in tune with everything, and oscillator 1, you can't really see it, but yeah, that's the oscillator 2, and the oscillator 1 is on by default. Now that's down 14, this is up 14, means the average is 0, so that's as close in tune as you get with the other instrument in your tune. Okay, so there we go, that's a basic fuzzy bass, but usually when you're doing a Neuro bass, unless you're doing really hard D&B, you want to add a low pass filter to soften it up. And it's pretty much as simple as that, but let's lower the octave a bit. There we go. Pretty nice Neuro bass. This is a 12 decibel per octave low pass filter. And this is the 24. So you can hear way less higher end. 303, aka acid bass. Starting again with a basic saw waveform and bringing down the octave. The acid bass consists of a couple of components. The saw combined with a low pass filter. You want a low pass filter, and so far this will be like the Neuro bass. Now what makes the acid bass different is the filter envelope. Very important. In SunVox you have to have the filter envelope on first. Sustain off is what we want for the acid bass, and so far, as you can see, you can't hear jack shit because both the attack and the release are down. So it means the filter is closed immediately. If you have this off, it's akin to changing the frequency here like this. Like you just bring it down real fast, so you can barely hear it when these are both 0. Now, when we start bringing the release up, you can see here this little thing shows you how long it'll take for this frequency to go down. So again, this is the same as if we didn't have the envelope and just used our mouse to go. So this thing just automates bringing this frequency down when you have the envelope on, like so. Now, the other missing component for this sound, it's already okay. Resonance, a very important part of the acid bass. The 303 synth had a really nice screeching resonance, so we want to bring the frequency up probably a bit, because the frequency is down so low and you bring the resonance up, you are gonna run into mud issues, because the resonance brings the volume up right at the cutoff, and when this goes down, the automated envelope, like we explained earlier, it creates a volume peak in the low frequencies when it goes way down, and it can cause all sorts of problems with speakers are gonna pop and crack, and it's just gonna not set well with the mix. Okay, we wanna bring this frequency up because we wanna make this a bit of a more of a screeching bass. The resonance again sounds usually better with the higher end of the frequency spectrum here. pretty much all there is to the acid bass. And next up, the 808 bass, and for this we are not going to use the analog generator. For this, SunVox has a wonderful little synth called the Kicker. It's a kick synth, and we can use it to make 808 basses by bringing the release up like crazy. Polyphony is by default on 1, which is what you want. Okay, it's got a bunch of parameters like the acceleration. Let's see what that does. That's how quickly the signal comes down, so you probably want to have it pretty low for a sort of authentic 808. So there's no way to make an even tone with this, so that's a limitation. You can make it to make the nice sliding one, but can't make it that melodic necessarily. So the triangle is okay. You can use that, but the sine wave would be a bit closer to the original. Okay, let's see what it sounds like with the... it's probably a bit nicer without the click, with no click on, but it still has a bit of a click, but that's not terrible. So there we go, nice 808 sliding bass. I'll show you how to make something similar with the analog generator, because that one can be a bit more melodic because it doesn't do the slide pitch. We want to have the sine wave on. Standard sub bass, not bad. We want to have the sustain off and the release up, and also remember to bring the polyphony down. There we go. Cool, basic 808. Okay, now we're gonna make a fingered bass sound, as close as you can get with a synth. And you're gonna use many different waveforms. Most of the work will be done by the filter anyway. So bring polyphony down. You can use a saw, bring the filter frequency down. There we go. Sounds kind of weak. We can even bring it down an octave. There we go, pretty nice. You can use a square, just remember to play a higher octave. The saw is probably the closest thing to an actual bass. There we go, nice sort of fingered bass sound.